why on earth does it matter where Emma was born? It should be completely irrelevant. She's 100% British and 100% brilliant, and surely that's what we should have been talking about, not the ethnicity of her parents.
That's because you're not a racist, Dan. Like you, I watched the match on Saturday evening. I thought, this is fantastic. I sent a tweet saying, congratulations, Emma, you're a champion. Turned off my phone, went to sleep, didn't think anything else of it. Didn't think to politicise it in any way, shape or form. Woke up the next day and everyone was talking about her race, her ethnicity. And as you say, it was the same usual suspects, the woke, liberal, progressive, whatever you want to call them, the people on the left who were talking about. In fact, they literally called her the immigrant. Imagine that. Imagine if anyone on the right called her the immigrant. What would the backlash be? And it's because I do think they are, well-intentioned. I do think that they think they're doing right. They're raising the issue to say, look, we are more progressive than you guys because we see this immigrant and we take her on board. But we on the right are saying, well, we don't even see her as an immigrant. She's one of us. She's British.
She's been here since she was 2 years old.
She played this match for Great Britain and won for Great Britain. It's a medal for Britain. That's fantastic. We should all celebrate that.
No, I completely agree. And to me, this is just proof, Calvin, that it's actually the left and these extremists on the left who are the ones who want to stoke the culture war.
And I'm glad that things like this are happening because it's exposing them for what they are. I've been saying for a while, I've received more racism since Black Lives Matter took off, more racism than the rest of my adult life combined. And racism is absolutely an issue. I have to give that caveat. Racism is an issue because my biggest critics always say, Calvin, you go on air, you say that racism doesn't exist in this country. I'm not saying that. It is an issue, but that does not mean that this country is racist. It does not mean that we are institutionally or systemically racist. And it does not mean that every white person in this country is a racist. And those things need to be cleared out because there are so many people on the progressive left, I won't name names because we know who they are, certain professors, etc., that will say, look, if you're born white, you are inherently racist. Either you're covertly racist or you're obviously racist. One way or another, there's no way around it. It's a Kafkaesque trap that you cannot get out of. And we need to avoid that situation and say, look, people can be nasty. People can be nasty in a lot of ways. Race is one way that people use to bully each other. It's wrong, it's evil, but anyone can do it and anyone can receive it. And what we're seeing right now is that the majority of the right are accepting, and the majority of people in this country actually are accepting of people and welcoming, and it doesn't matter what colour you are, what religion you are. If you live in this country, we consider you British, especially if you fight for this country or play a game for this country.
Absolutely.
This country. But the left want to divide us based on our race, based on our ethnicity, to point it out to us, to use it, to weaponise it against what they think are the bad guys. But they don't realise the hypocrisy of their ways because they're the ones weaponising race, which is racism.
And there was a lot of intellectual dishonesty as well, Calvin, because you take someone like Gary Lineker, who tweeted a front page of the Daily Express, which had a story on one side about Priti Patel vowing to turn back the boats full of illegal immigrants next to a picture of Emma Raducanu. And he said, oh, the irony. But to me, this was completely intellectually dishonest, Calvin, because it suggests that legal immigrants to this country believe in illegal immigration or open borders, whereas in fact, the more illegal immigration there is, the less opportunities there are for legal immigrants like the Raducanu family to enter the country.
It's entirely disingenuous, and this is an argument the left use a lot. They conflate immigration and racism on purpose. And, our very own Nigel Farage has had a lot of this in the past, and I've had some of it, where people will say, you are xenophobic or you are racist because you want to control immigration. It's like, no, wait a minute, let's think about this. I fought for vote leave because I thought we need more immigration, actually, of the people that we need with the skills and talents that we need in this country. So we need more nurses from Canada, we need more doctors from India, we need more teachers from Australia, and that was impossible in the EU system because it was open doors to one certain demographic, a European demographic. So having a conversation about immigration does not make you a racist, it does not make you a xenophobe. It's an important conversation to have, and the left use racism to shut down the debate, and we have to question why. What is their motive, what is their agenda, and why are we not allowed to engage on this topic?
Indeed, and this one actually resonated. I know you said it resonated personally with you. It resonated personally with me too, Calvin, because I'm in a not dissimilar position to Emma Raducanu. So I'm a dual citizen of Britain and New Zealand. My parents were both born in Britain. Well, my dad on a British Army base in Malta, my mum in Essex. My grandparents fought for Britain, and so in World War II. So from the moment that I was born, I had two identities. I had my New Zealand identity, which I'm very passionate about, and my British identity. And I feel like a proud Brit. But very often, it's these so-called tolerant folk on the left who will say to me, go back to where you came from.
Yes.
And I am British. Yeah. I consider myself to be British, but I still consider myself to be a proud New Zealander too, and that's possible. So I just think it's so terrible the way that the tolerant left will weaponise race when it suits them.
Well, this is something we can learn from America. They obviously have their own issues, but in America, everyone is an American. That's the core part of their identity. We don't seem to have that as much over here.
No.
We seem to say, well, are you actually British?
Yeah.
And I get this a lot myself, you know, are you English? Are you British? How so? It's like, well, yes, I am. I was born here, my parents were born here, and I'm proud to live here. I choose to live here. And don't divide me based on the things that I cannot choose. I can't choose my skin colour, so I shouldn't be proud or ashamed of it.
And you read the story of Emma Raducanu told by herself, and it's the most lovely, privileged, middle-class British upbringing you can possibly have, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that her dad had Romanian heritage or her mum had Chinese heritage, even though she was Canadian-born. Yes, I've actually read an interview with Emma, a feature interview, where she does talk about her mother's heritage and the fact that she very much respects what the Chinese culture is like. But she talks about her mother's background. She doesn't talk about her own background because all she's known is Britain. But look, I want to bring my superstar panel in tonight. We've got the social commentator Esther Kraku, the late editor and senior reporter at the newspaper Benjamin Butterworth, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. Daisy, where do you stand on this one?
Red herring to say that so many of these comments are completely skewing the real situation and are trying to make a political point about her heritage. I think a lot of these, I think some of them may well be, but I think a lot of these
comments...
Well,
that's openly what Sadiq Khan and Alistair Campbell would do.
But I think a lot of these comments about Emma's background are more to do, I think, are more to do with the fact that she made it big in tennis. Tennis has always had a tradition or an impression that it was a game for kind of very white middle-class kids, that it was a kind of posh game. And we had this in the Olympics, that all the rowers were very posh and all the fencers were posh and all the people who did who did equestrian sports. And tennis had a similar...
But I think her parents are posh, Daisy. They work in finance and they seem very privileged.
Let's not conflate posh with white.
That's exactly the point I'm trying to make. So I think there's this lazy assumption that because she's come from an immigrant background, she's somehow, sort of kid from a ghetto who's made it big in tennis. So I think the intention was to make a point that actually doesn't really follow. So I'm sort of backing you up, but I'm saying I think it was actually less to do with immigrant status and more to do with the sort of inverted snobbery, which is just as bad but slightly different.
As always, you're very charitable in your perspective, Daisy, but I think what it comes down to is these people look at the world through a racial lens. It's typical critical race theory, typical identity politics. They look at the world to see where's racism going on, how can I use race in this argument, how can I make this political? Whereas you didn't need to bring up their ethnicity, just say, congratulations, well done, you won a medal for our country, amazing.
I just can't believe, Esther, that anyone would think Emma was anything other than British. And I just found it so odd that a stream of people on the left just wanted to talk about race after she had achieved this amazing thing.
Yeah, I think it's more remarkable that she's the only 18-year-old in London that could possibly afford a mortgage in London with her price.
Now, yeah.
But I just think,
she don't need a mortgage, Esther. I'm afraid to break it to you.
Right. This is an 18-year-old girl. She's done an amazing thing. I know most 18-year-olds who wouldn't even have any achievements close to that. Why can't you just say congratulations and move on? Why do you have to use her for this low IQ race politics crap? Why can't you just say, congratulations, you've done an amazing thing, good for you, good for Britain, and just, move on? Why do you have to use an 18-year-old girl who's just done an amazing thing to play your sort of political ping-pong? It's like when France won the World Cup and they're like, oh, yeah, most of the players were black and they were African. Yeah, but they're French. They're French. They won for France.
Well, they said it about our England team as well, didn't they, Calvin? They're English.
I think if you're going to use her for political points, say, look, she's British, she worked hard, she was resilient, and this is how she got to where she is, successful. That's how you encourage kids. Make her a positive role model for all Brits, regardless of their skin colour. Absolutely.
And by the way, it's not saying that someone's heritage or their background isn't important, but I like the point made by Will Calvin, who said, this is Emma's story to tell and the way that she wants to tell it. Not a load of two-bit politicians trying to divide us on what was a sensational Saturday night. But Calvin Robinson, so good to have you here on The Cancel tonight. Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.